Hello, hello. So, happy Friday, everybody. We are continuing on with the Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament preview season, and as many have guessed, I am going to be showing off Karasu today from Team Toguro, as well as his 8 support cards. Now, a lot of people have been really looking forward to this guy, kind of a surprising number. I wasn't really expecting that, so I'm not going to drag this on too much, but just to recap sort of where we are here. I'm recording this on Wednesday night, so we've seen a couple members of Team Toguro already. We've seen Elder Toguro and we've seen Bui, and we've kind of noticed that they have a little bit of a Foundation Destruction theme going on, as well as their back page Team Toguro card I believe we've also seen. So, you know, as you might expect, Karasu is going to be doing a little bit of that. Okay, he's going to be doing a lot of bit of that. So let's get this up here. Karasu is a 7-hand size, 20 health character with Death, Evil, Fire. After you deal damage with an attack, there's no other way to deal damage, but never mind. After you deal damage, any player with 6 or more foundations destroys 1 foundation. So maybe not on turn 2, but pretty much after that, anytime something hits, there's going to be a lot of destroying going on both sides of the field. You know, a bit of an equal opportunity guy. You know, he's calm and collected. He's sadistic. He's not really nice, but, you know, if we're going to be destroying foundations, why can't our opponent get in on the fun, right? So every time he lands an attack, if you have more than 5 foundations, something's getting blown up. And naturally, his other ability, his stats ability, so to say, is that he can enhance to give an attack plus X damage. X is the total number of foundations destroyed this turn. That is by both players combined. So his late game damage numbers can get crazy, like absolutely nuts. If you're packing enough destroy triggers, things that are going to deal damage, you hit with 1 thing, 2 things get destroyed, now your attacks get 2 damage for this turn. Destroy a couple foundations as cost, now it's +4. Hit another destroy trigger somewhere, it's +6. Or you just play a Fierce Whirlwind from MHA Heroes Clash and really ramp up to 4, 5, 6 right out of the gate. Now, seems pretty good, seems pretty solid. A little, you know, as simple as he is, as much as like, okay, well, just play destroy things. It is actually balancing out how many destroy effects you need, how to get your attacks to sequence to really get the most out of that damage pump is going to be pretty interesting to put together, I think. But of course, he has support, right? So first up, we have Deadly Claw. This is kind of a funny one. It's a 4 difficulty, 3 high 4, 3 check, 2 high block. Pretty middling stats, but if you have 5 or fewer foundations, it gets +2 speed, +2 damage. It's a 4 difficulty, 5 high 6, provided your stage is fairly low. And you know, Karasu's kind of forcing himself into that situation on purpose, so it's pretty good for him at all stages of the game. For other characters, for other decks, for sort of aggressively minded decks that really want to be getting some stuff done early, this might be a little appealing. It tails off late, which is a bit of the opposite of what you want to be doing, but if you're really here to end the game on 2 or 3 without playing very many foundations, then Deadly Claw could be for you. It has the Punch keyword, which we haven't seen a lot of yet in this set, so that's a little interesting to see, although it's on non-quote-unquote traditional punch symbols. So, pretty interesting comment. We've seen a lot of comments so far that are sort of blank text box, powerful or EX, pretty solid, you know, sort of just draft cards, make sure that draft decks have uses for momentum, make sure they can end games. It's a little bit different from that. This is looking to get sort of an early hit in. You might not want a huge pile of these because it's not fantastic late in a draft situation, but pretty interesting one, and it's generic like a lot of these other commons are. That doesn't require too much other than maybe ideally have some destroy costs. Next up, we have his rare Deor Bomb. This is a 5 difficulty, 4 high 5, 2 mid block. You can enhance and destroy a foundation, because why not? We're probably going to be doing that anyway. This attack gets a speed and stun 1, so a small-ish payoff, kind of 2 pseudo speed, but one of them's a stun, so it sticks for the turn. But, you know, if you're planning to have to keep destroying foundations until you're down to 5 anyway, you might as well feed it to something like this. And pretty neat, it responds card pool. After your rival destroys a foundation, you get to remove this. You get to self-clear it. So, in Karasu, this makes a lot of obvious sense, right? You play the Deor Bomb the moment something lands, including the bomb itself. It gets to clear itself from your card pool, you get to extend your string, you're putting damage on everything, you're low on foundations, you really want to extend your string. So it's pretty interesting for him. Going to be a bit of a weird fit, you're going to have to pull some strings to work this into other decks, but if card clears itself, that's might be worth the trouble, right? And next up we have the uncommon Malefic Grenade. This is a 5/3 plus 0 low, 4 mid 5. Uncommon range tech, you can discard a momentum as an enhance to give it 3 speed, and then if it hits, your rival has to destroy 1 foundation. More destruction stuff for Karasu, of course. Kind of a pseudo, like, mini EX with a cherry on top. They don't have to destroy a ready foundation, so it's not like pseudo speed in that sense. But it can set them back. You know, you have a momentum, you lob out a Malefic Grenade, especially if you're not necessarily planning to super go in this turn, although, you know, if you're Karasu, that's 3 total foundations destroyed, excuse me. On your 7 mid 5, you have momentum to feed into it. And I'm just going to call out that +0 low block. I have played some pretty bad cards in my time to get +0 off-zone blocks, so even in just that regard, this could be an interesting, you know, 1x, 2x, get that surprise block off. Outside of Karasu, not so sure. You really need to be sort of stacking on the foundation destruction theme for paying a momentum to maybe get a destroy to be a worthwhile idea. But, you know, again, maybe that +0 block carries it. Maybe, you know, it's got the tech keyword. There's not too many things with that, so may have some legs in other decks, but certainly an interesting piece for Karasu himself. And then the last attack we have is his ultra rare Trace Eyes. Alright, well, we've gone there. So, it's a 4 difficulty 2 mid block, 4 low for 3. Enhanced, you may destroy 1 ready foundations to pay for its echo cost. Sort of makes the echo copy a pseudo 5 diff. Also removes the need to have a momentum for it. 4 low for 3 is not a bad stat line if you're Karasu and you're putting up a zillion damage and everything. And just the ability to have an echo that you can just double play this attack at any stage in the game, whether you have momentum or not. Ally range tech certainly has its appeal. This is going to be an interesting card for probably anybody that's putting damage on things. You know, slots into that 4 diff slot, it's off zone. You can find a foundation to destroy for the echo, it's no problem. So that one's going to be a pretty good ultra rare that fits in a bunch of decks, which is sort of a common theme we've seen with this set so far. A lot of these ultra rares have been relatively generic, or at the very least they go in characters that are adding this kind of stat kind of thing. But if this is, you know, anything like the old multiple, there were a bunch of multiple attacks back in ye old days that would have an effect that lets you pay for its multiple without having momentum. Those were not universally good because some of them were 6 difficulty or something, but anything that was cheap like this was almost always quite good. So I expect to see a lot of Trace Eyes. Moving on to his foundations, we have Demon Energy Manipulation. This is his uncommon 2/5/3 low block. After it's destroyed, your next attack gets -1 difficulty. Pretty welcome if you're blowing yourself up down to 5 foundations. You're going to need every little bit of check passing power you get. But if you happen to have a little excess, or you're about to destroy this, you might as well commit it. If you have 6 or fewer foundations, you can give an attack +3 damage. So if you're starting a string, right, and you don't have your damage all the way ramped up yet, this could be a nice one to turn sideways in preparation that you're probably going to have to blow something up. You might as well blow this one up, give an attack -1 difficulty, and be on your way. So, you know, again, another card that kind of fits nicely into Karasu. Another card that's a little bit weird for other kits, but, you know, another character with destroy foundation costs. This might make a lot of sense because, you know, Karasu is not the only character who might be able to blow himself up down to 6 or 5 or something like that. And enhanced commit +3 damage it could be a desirable effect, depending what your character's doing. Next up, we have Frightening Calm. This is a 1 difficulty Frozen. This is a 1/4/3 high block that lets you destroy 1 foundation to give an attack stun 1. Stun 1, little more answers to it than Frozen specifically does, but this card was very good at 2 difficulty, saw a pretty fair amount of play, ended a lot of games. I imagine even at 1/4 with the 4 check that the same is going to be true of Frightening Calm. This is a nice way to play a spam that'll let you destroy a bunch of stuff for some profitable outcomes, especially with some of those cards rotating out, like Frozen in particular, having Frightening Calm rotating in. I think the Fire Symbol's going to love to have this effect on a 1 diff. I think the Evil Symbol's probably going to want a card like this. Death has some other things already. I'm trying to remember if Evil has something else or not, but certainly at least on Fire. Or just, you know, in Karasu, being able to get some destroy triggers on a spam, maybe for some other Toguro support that deals with this stuff. This certainly, I think it's worth the 4-check in your deck to run a couple copies of this or more to get those destroy outlets going. Next up, Unsettling Aura. This is a common foundation 2/5. Nice 1 mid block on this. And this is kind of neat. E-commit, this attack gets -2 speed, but if you're low on foundations, you have 6 or less, it gets -3 speed instead. So it's big speed reduction when you need it. Later on in the game, where a 2/5 mid block E-commit -3 speed might be a little crazy, it comes back down a little bit. It becomes -2 speed. It still keeps that nice mid block, so you know, if it's in your hand at a late stage in the game, you've got a bunch of foundations and you don't really want to play your 2/5 -2 speed button, it has a 1 mid block, which is perfectly welcome to sit in your hand and help you defend yourself. Nice, solid, common speed hate for sure. I have to imagine this one's going to see a decent amount of play, you know, unless a deck is really just expressly planning to live in that late game or something like that. And lastly, we have his rare foundation, Warped Pleasure, 2/5 +2 high block. Enhance. Once per turn your turn, both players destroy foundations if they have 6 or more. You know, because why not? This is a unique, you don't get to stack a bunch of these and just really go crazy. But certainly a Karasu card through and through and through. And then secondarily, enhance if your rival is low. If they have 10 or less health, your attack gets a speed and a damage. So free stats, if you've been putting some work in, you've gotten your opponent low, this will help you finish them off. Pretty interesting, unique. I have to decide if it's playable or not just for the bottom enhance if you don't really care about the top one. But, you know, Team Toguro has a bunch of this kind of stuff. You might care about the top one for some other Toguro-themed stuff like I talked about before. You know, there's the Elder Toguro Foundation that gains you health for destroying foundations. Maybe you have some interest in this kind of thing. But definitely a cool card for Karasu, if nothing else. And it probably sees a slot in some decks for that 10 or less health ability. And yeah, that will wrap it up for our Karasu previews. Let me know in the comments what you think of this guy. If you're a Karasu fan, are you happy? This is pretty enticing character and kit. Lots of, like I said before, even though he's kind of simple, he gets some gears turning of how actually you want to assemble this deck. He's going to be pretty interesting to build, even if his playstyle does feel pretty straightforward. Getting everything balanced out just right is going to be a bit of a trick to pull off. So yeah, that'll do it for me. Stay tuned in, should be 3 hours if you're watching this right when it becomes live. I believe Lotus Asakura has the next preview. We are guessing it is going to be Kurama, and a lot of people have been looking forward to that for sure too. So pretty exciting Friday lined up here. Enjoy the future previews, and have a nice weekend.